Continuing on my 12-part rookie profile series for 2022, we keep going through this deep wide receiver class with my wide receiver 5 and my 1.08 in one quarterback leagues and probably my 111-ish in superflex leagues. Purdue wide receiver David Bell. Now, I know this is a fairly high ranking of Bell, especially post-combine, and when you consider the couple receivers that I have behind him, who could both be first-round picks in the NFL draft. But Bell hits on a lot of my markers as a super productive receiver in the Big Ten. So until he drops in the NFL draft, I'm going to keep Bell inside my top 5 wide receivers. So looking at Bell's time at Purdue, he entered his freshman year in 2019 at 18 years old and just dominated off the rip. He caught 86 passes for 1,035 yards and 7 touchdowns as a freshman. Now, Rondale Moore missed 75% of the season with a hamstring injury, but you love to see the fact that David Bell was able to take over as Purdue's wide receiver 1 at such a young age as a freshman. Moving into 2020, and because of COVID, Purdue only played in 6 games, but in those 6 games, Bell caught 53 receptions for 625 yards and 8 touchdowns, leading Purdue again across the board in receiving as a sophomore. Granted, again, Rondale Moore missed half of those games due to injury, but even in the games where both of them played, Bell was still dominating with 2 games of at least 8 receptions for over 100 yards and at least 1 touchdown in those 3 games. And then finally, junior year 2021, it's just a curtain call performance at this point for David Bell as he hauled in 93 receptions for 1,286 yards and 6 touchdowns in just another amazing season. He had 5 games over 120 receiving yards, another 2 over 100 yards, including 2 games with 200 plus receiving yards. He torched Iowa for 11 for 240 and 1. He beat up Ohio State with 11 for 103. And even his worst games against Wisconsin and Notre Dame were still solid as he had 6 plus receptions in each of those games. He just dominated every single year of college, which is why I rank him inside my top 5 wide receivers in this class. So moving on to the analytics, let me remind you of my 12 marker system for wide receivers, which is just a series of check boxes that I would like my prospects to hit based on what other historically good NFL receivers did in college. And through this lens, Bell comes in hitting on 9 out of 12 markers, which as of right now is tied for first in this class, though I am still expecting London to separate from that group with his pro day on April 5th. But as of right now, Bell hits on more markers than almost everybody else in this class, including guys like Treylon Burks, both Ohio State wide receivers, Jamison Williams, all of those guys. David Bell has more markers hit than all of them. And I will say that with the production profile that Bell had in college, I did expect him to hit on a lot of those markers, including an 18-year-old 20% breakout age and a 19-year-old 30% breakout age, both of which are the best ages in this class. He's tied with a couple other receivers like George Pickens and Justin Ross with an 18-year-old breakout age, but nobody else has a 19-year-old 30% breakout age in this class. They're all either older or they just didn't have one at all. He hits on all the yards per team pass attempts metrics. He hits on best market share of yards, age, height, BMI. The only 2 markers that he is missing on pre-draft are from his stupid 40-yard dash time, which was a 4.65 at the combine and made me just way too sad on that day. And that's honestly it. That is the reason why he is not higher in my rankings, the only reason why his draft stock is falling. But it's also a big reason why I will be drafting a lot of David Bell in my rookie drafts after the draft, because that 40 time made him cheaper, and I'm not entirely concerned about that time overall. We have seen players very similar to David Bell come out of college and succeed in the NFL with a similar 40 time. I actually filtered down my database to players within Bell's marker range as very good prospects with a 40 time slower than 4.6, drafted in the first 3 rounds in the NFL draft. And we get names like Cooper Kupp, who I think has been pretty successful so far in the NFL, Jarvis Landry, who I would also say has been very successful in the NFL, Michael Clayton, who had one of the best rookie wide receiver seasons of all time with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in 2004, posting an 80 for 1,207 rookie stat line. You also have Corn Robinson, who had an average rookie season, then posted 80 for 1,250 and 5 in his second season in the NFL, then 65 for 904 the following year with that mid-2000s Seahawks. You can even extend the filter out to include 4th round picks, and oh wait, Amon-Ra St. Brown is now on the list from last season, who actually had a worse 40 time relative to his size than David Bell did. Tyler Boyd and Michael Thomas both ran a 4.57 and 4.58 times as well, so there are examples in the NFL today of players who have found ways to succeed despite slower 40 times. And I hate to sit here and be the
watch the tape kind of guy,
but honestly, if Bell's speed was so inhibiting to him in college, how was he the most productive receiver in this class, playing on under 30 games in 3 years in the Big Ten? He's better than Rondale Moore was last year. He's one of the few receivers in this class without an injury history, let alone a torn ACL. And the only thing that I'm really paying attention to at this point is what round in the NFL draft does he go in? Because if he's still a second rounder, he will then be a 10 out of 12 marker player, which at worst is tied for second in this class. And he might even move up my rankings, or at least hold where he is above guys who eventually get drafted ahead of him in the NFL draft. And even if he does fall into the third round or later, I mean, hopefully not too much later, but if he is a third round pick in the NFL draft, I will still be targeting him with a later round rookie pick, because I know he will fall well into the second round of rookie drafts, if not even farther than that. So with that in mind, let's look at some potential landing spots, and to just help manifest his draft capital, we'll stick with teams in the mid to late second round range, similar to where Rondale Moore got taken last year from Purdue. First up for me is the Cleveland Browns at 44 overall, who could continue to improve their offense this year by drafting David Bell as their wide receiver 2 with Amari Cooper and replace the aforementioned Jarvis Landry in their offense. Plus, I mean, for fantasy purposes, it would be great for our rookie receivers to be catching passes from Deshaun Watson. This would be a perfect spot, in my opinion, for David Bell to transition to the NFL as a slot wide receiver with an elite quarterback on a team where he would not be asked to be the wide receiver 1 out the gate. So I absolutely love him to the Cleveland Browns in the mid-second. There are actually 3 more teams in similar situations as the Browns, all picking back to back to back in that mid-second round range, who could be interested in David Bell. And they are the Washington Commanders, the Chicago Bears, and the New Orleans Saints. And on all 3 teams, Bell could again be that slot wide receiver 2 on each team. And although the quarterback situation isn't as good as Deshaun Watson, Wentz, Fields, or Jameis Winston, they can all get the job done for fantasy football and for their receivers. So these are just more teams that might have a need at wide receiver 2 right there again in that mid-second round range. Then there would also be the craziness that would ensue if either the Chiefs or the Packers take Bell in that late second round, especially depending on what they would do in the late first round with both of their picks in that first round. And even if Bell is the second rookie receiver drafted to either team, we're going to love the situation he's put in with those teams, with those quarterbacks. And if I had to choose, I would probably prefer the Green Bay Packers for the immediate short-term range, but Bell on the Chiefs could be the reason that they don't extend Juju Smith-Schuster, as they could play similar roles in the NFL. So either way, I think both teams obviously would be great for David Bell in the late second round range. And there's always another plethora or handful of teams that could use Bell as a wide receiver 2 that I've just mentioned constantly throughout this series for wide receiver prospects, but I will just quickly add in one more team in the Indianapolis Colts as a team that I would like to see should he fall into that third round. Hopefully not, but if he does, I would like him to be with the Indianapolis Colts at the 3.09. That would avoid David Bell going to some terrible teams and instead go to a team that is a good offense with a solid enough quarterback in Matt Ryan, and very much similar to what I think we saw from Amon-Ra St. Brown last year, where it was a later round rookie wide receiver who has the opportunity to see immediate volume in their rookie season that helped boost up Amon-Ra's stock up into where he is right now. So that is another team that I would love to see David Bell go to should he fall a little bit out of the second round in the NFL draft. So that is my breakdown of my wide receiver 5, my 1.08 David Bell in this class. Make sure that you hit that like button to let me know that you would also be taking any discount on David Bell in your rookie drafts right there with me. Let me know down in the comments if you are concerned or are not concerned about his athleticism in the NFL. And be sure to hit that subscribe button if you are not yet subscribed to get more content from the DLF YouTube channel as we continue on through rookie draft season. The NFL draft is coming up really, really quick here at the end of April, just 1 month away. So with that all being said, guys, thank you all so much for watching. We'll catch y'all later.